Hey, good evening, everybody. This is Ken and Tom at Tortoise Capital, and it is September 2nd, 2025. And we're getting ready to get into an engagement with the eight imbalances of the trader. Just as a quick catch up, uh, I did a sort of a deep dive uh, unpacking of all the things that I find troublesome about trading over the years. And they took the form of imbalances. And I happened to be thinking about, the eight um, directions in the noble eightfold path. And it's also there's in judo and jujitsu, there's eight directions in which we seek to unbalance the opponent in order to get some momentum, and then we can leverage that. We can leverage his energy or his reaction against that to our own purposes. And so there was something about eight imbalances that struck me as being useful. There was enough, but not too much. What generally is true about all of those imbalances, we'll talk about a couple of them tonight, I guess, um, is that each one of them has its own particular characteristic, a certain feeling. It's a deviation from the zero state trading plan that is my integrated intention for how to trade in the markets. When I think of system, self, and markets, my self position in there is one of balance and flexibility and non-directional bias, but allowing the market speaking through price to move me in the direction I need to go. And then I've got a trading plan that allows for the market's movement to pay me for being flexible. I get paid for being responsive and reactive to the market instead of trying to enforce my will. So there's a certain act of almost surrender and buoyancy, floating in water when I'm trading really, really well. I can see both shores. I can see the things, but I'm resting on the water and being carried by the current and not fighting it. So I always characterize that feeling as one of balance. So the imbalances, then, these eight imbalances, are things that, for whatever reason, internal or external, uh, cause me to go too far in one direction at the expense of another one. And then that becomes my focal point. It becomes about being in balance as opposed to just being part of the flow. And what I've noticed is that as I before I started doing the coaching with the folks, I noticed that I was trying to understand why I was being unbalanced or imbalanced with my head, trying to, create a theory of imbalance, all the reasons why I might be in this position as if that were as if the explanation was the reason. And one of the things I've been discovering is that uh, while that knowledge is interesting and it's self-reflective and all that, it doesn't help me get back into balance, and it doesn't necessarily prevent future imbalances. That what's really needed for me to trade well and to be uh, back in my zero state is just to get there, is to be able to just let that go and get back into the state of being balanced. And no matter what the imbalance is, the solutions are always the same. It's regain balance. And it's as quick as thought almost, being able to just recognize that condition and go. So it's an asymmetrical response to the awareness that I am out of balance, if I can say it that way. Um, so that's kind of my warm up on this one, Tom. I want to launch it over to you and surrender to your guidance here and try to be a good student and I'll be your uki throwing dummy if as we might say in judo. So good to see you
Yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
looking
Good to
forward
see
to
you.
this.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, yeah, good to get into the Nageuke practice.
yeah,
So if we did, I thought we could explore two today.
yeah,
One, the overreaching, and the other, the perfectionism.
yeah,
And and maybe just start with i- i- coming back to that calm presence.
yeah.
What you described in our first call was this tone, um, the auditory tone that you feel in your solar plexus,
Yeah, yeah,
and that D kind of
yeah.
uh, you know what that is when
Yeah,
you're in balance.
yeah, it's that
Uh,
deep universal tone, the undercurrent of the universe when it is unhurried. I mean, I've gone so far as getting a set of tuning forks just because I enjoy hearing the different tones and playing with those
yeah,
things. And it always, yeah, the solar plexus sort of is the root of power for throwing in judo and jujitsu, and where centered breathing lives, getting out of my head and getting into that core, that foundational feeling. Yeah, it's very auditory. It's an auditory hum for me. I have it. I can when I'm trading well. There's almost there's a soundtrack going on in my head, like the marching drums and all over that carrier wave of toom, 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 toom. It's sort of a relentless getting work done like a diesel. It's kind of how that feels.
yeah. So when you notice you're overreaching, what has shifted about that auditory tone and that
Yeah,
jump
there's
jump?
yeah, it's almost like a shot of adrenaline and a discordant note, like a sudden sharp note out of nowhere that sort of yanks my attention. My attention follows it. I let my attention go to that and quickly see opportunities or um yeah, I guess opportunities is the best way to describe it. I see a like a lightning flash of a possible move that was not in my original plan. And for whatever reason, and reasons that I will create to justify the action after I have the surge of desire for the to grab more than I can carry even. Uh, it'll be a uh, the tone is hurried, irregular, high pitched, almost like a siren, screaming to be noticed. Got to get it while you can. Don't let it get away. Is this the one? Finally at last. All of those things that sort of drown out the underlying tone of the original trade and the plan. And it's just try to hurry up and get everything, all of it now, before I get caught, before it runs away. Here's another case of, you know, the moment is there and the fear of missing out is think of all the other ones I have not grabbed for whatever reason. Is this going to be another one of those? When am I just going to grab it and go and get away with it? That kind of stuff. So the overreaching takes the form of too many trades on at once and diverting attention, or trading with too large a size as a percentage of the portfolio, too much risk, um, a sense of trying to get away with something here before it gets noticed. Thief in the night, bandit, you know, and so or trying to hold on for uh, too much of a move. If it went this far and it's already abnormal, maybe it'll keep going. And talking myself into seeing opportunities that aren't there from analysis, or I haven't done the analysis, so I can't confirm that the moves are reasonable within my time frame, within my risk parameters, that there's not a compelling theory of action that says why I should I should have anticipated this or whatever. Now, the funny thing is, in retrospect, there may have very well been an opportunity there that if my analysis had gone that far, maybe I could have a disinterested scientific craftsman's appreciation for why I could go that far. But I haven't done the due diligence and I haven't applied professional standards. So, yeah, so this tone is always one of not a professional calibrated craftsman's move, but a just a knee-jerk sense of urgency to try to get more and grab it all while I can and sort it out later. So that's kind of what it feels like. The audio and the sound that goes along with that is similar. It's a discordant, uh, hurried, not rhythmic, unpleasing.
Yeah. So when in judo or jujitsu, when you notice that is happening, what occurs?
Yeah, I usually get hurt. There's every time I've ever been hurt because of something I did. It's I stepped outside of the normal flow of the move and tried to get too much, to get the quick win or to establish dominance decisively when the right play would have just been control and gently go to the ground or something. But trying for too much, and I've uh, broken bones, pulled muscles, torn hamstrings, broken fingers, uh, from all of those, and it's you know you get the rude awakening takes about a half a second, and in that second you realize, oh yeah, that's where my error was. That's right, and then I'm gonna get to think about this for the next 6 months, while
Yeah.
it heals. So yeah, in the arts, that's kind of what that every time I've ever been hurt, it's come from that kind of going beyond my limits and not listening to the flow.
uh, Trying to make something happen beyond what the situation
Right. Yeah.
really is making available.
I'm
And
going to move that immovable object.
yeah, I'm
Uh,
going to double down here because I know it's going to go.
yeah.
And then it retraces.
Yeah.
Um, so what's the antidote? What's the kind of counter move if you were to catch it in the
Yeah.
moment with that sense? Even in judo or jujitsu, what's the
Yeah.
I'm about to overreach. I feel that adrenaline kick in. What's
Yeah.
the antidote?
There's actually the right move in those is to instantly be aware of it. And in judo, the right move is to relax into the person you're throwing or who's throwing you, to remove space and to map your body to their body and then be ready to follow the energy whichever direction it goes in a circular motion so you can roll with it. So, like, the way you throw in judo is the way you fall in judo. So if I'm standing and I just do a shoulder roll, I can just tuck my head and roll to a shoulder, and my body's a big wheel, and I just roll through it and I can land on my feet. The judo throw is simply closing the distance and gaining space and attaching his body to your body and then doing a shoulder roll. Only you land on him. He's the outer circle of your inner circle, and then you tighten it up and roll, and then you roll onto him, with your weight. And if he doesn't know how to fall, that's all. If he knows how to fall, then we just keep going. We're going to see what happens next. But rather than trying to do too much, which is like I feel resistant and it's not going, and he's separated, and I'm going to struggle against that. the right answer is to move instead, feel that, and instantly move into him, join his energy, and then turn that into a mutual flow in the other direction that I'm prepared for and he's not. And to be relaxed in that and to let that be a natural flowing of all the things I've ever practiced on how to go in that direction. So it's not thinking, it is letting go of the insistence on doing it my way and simply doing it the right way, which is exhale, get close, tighten up, and then flow into the energy with a roll. And that recognition is sort of a surrendering to the moment, away from what I was trying to demand of the situation, and simply accepting the situation and rolling through it. So that if if I can do that in that split second, then I avoid the disaster of confronting the energy instead of conforming to the energy, if I can say it that way.
What would the analogy be in trading?
Well, I think it's we talk a lot about the difference between normal moves and abnormal moves, and we calibrate the abnormal moves like we would say there's the edge of the normal move, maybe one standard deviation beyond the average, the river, the edge of the river.
Mhm.
And then the move from z square of 1 to 3 is sort of a two-step normal extreme movement, if I can say it that way. That's you're allowed to not be surprised if it goes all the way to Z3. That can happen. It happens enough that when it happens, you can say, yeah, that it's been known to do that, and we were ready for that move. Uh, at Z3, almost always there's a pause in the market when everybody that was in your time frame that was going in that direction has gone in that direction, and there's nobody left to come in and to buy it. And when that thing starts stalling and then falling, then everybody who was participating in Mr. Toad's wild ride is now fighting to get out of the trade and sometimes to reverse the trade. So you get a reversal of that abnormal move that's as fast or faster than the move that took it to the, I'm going to call it the normal extreme. But sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it will go to Z3 and then there's that half a beat. And then what happens is new money comes into that market from higher time frames. And they were alerted by the size of that local move on your time frame, and it gets their attention. And now suddenly much larger pots of money come in and start reinforcing that. And they don't often do that because normally your time frame is noise to them. But sometimes in critical states, that new money will come in and now start propelling it towards an abnormal move on their time frame when it now goes 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times more than the abnormal move you just saw. And it will always catch people by surprise that don't realize that there's different time horizons and different participants. But it seems like somewhere around that Z3 or the three standard deviations, which is rare in the world, but almost unsurprising in financial markets. Um, you're either going to get a sharp move back to the long-term normal, or these higher time frames come in and really take it hard. And so I would say the equivalent of what I was describing with the throws was that is not to have an expectation about which direction it's going, but to be open for the feeling of a reversal of the current energies. It's gone as far as it can, and now it's going to naturally revert. So there is a shifting in that local energy. But at the same time, there could be, with another layer of awareness, you got to say, is there new energy coming in that could also take it in one direction or the other. Because sometimes that abnormal move is a signal for a guy to smash it back with much larger size in the other direction. So that new energy that comes in doesn't always take it in the same direction. Sometimes it's a harsher reversal than the original move that you just played. So you have to be feeling for close and distant energy and how that the ebbs and flows of those things are both contributing to the feel of the trade, and they have
And
different qualities. A lot of times it's volume. You'll see as that first move starts to peter out, the volume will start drying up, and then it'll slowly turn and then sharply start moving back on the same kind of volume as guys get on the other side of the trade. That's just normal breathing. But if that other external time frame comes in, you might get 10 times the volume all at once. And that can disrupt you if you don't know that that can happen. So I guess there's like two reasons to be paying attention and to stop thinking about it, about what I want it to do. Because there's actually now more things to listen for and to look for in order to be responsive, as opposed to trying to force a will on that. And that's what the overreach is trying to impose my will on that reality. And regaining balance is the one that says, I'm now in this relaxed state. I'm close to the price in the trade, and I'm prepared to follow it in either direction while preserving the energy of the gains that I just made. And maybe I wasn't in that trade at all, but I just noticed and I've decided to get on board and prepared to go in either direction. So it's not even necessary that I participated in the first move. I can get on that roller coaster ride right at the peak of the hill where it's getting ready to make a strong move. So I would say that's the sense of surrendering to the price and being and listening for the couple layers of price and volume that's happening is the way to regain the balance and to stop reaching, but really it's inward tucking. And Wally J called that small circle jujitsu, is getting inside of the other guy's turning radius and staying very centered and small on the key axis that things are revolving on, getting to the center of the idea, which is the price. That's kind of what it feels like.
yeah. So what I'm sensing in this is when you get closer to that price volume action, when it hits the Z3 and it comes
Yeah,
back a bit
yeah,
and it comes up again to test a second time, and then it may come back a bit.
yeah, yeah.
It's easy to get into the monkey mind of jump too quick.
Right. It did that, so surely it'll do this.
Yeah,
It's going to have a certain follow through, and then there's a certain impatience, and that's when the rhythm changes and the tone rises, and now suddenly the song is distorted. The monkeys grab the baton and is trying to direct the orchestra instead of just everybody play your part. Here it comes, batten down the hatches, and rig for heavy weather and be ready to flex whichever wave is coming in. We need to be patient in the moment of execution, to be able to remain calm in that storm is sort of the key. Is to, as you get into, we would call that a critical state, or even a compound critical state, when guys from many different time frames are coming to that crossroads of time, space, price, and volume, and now it's a genuine maniacal market, crazy market, full
yeah.
of chaos, ready to go hard in any direction. That's the time you need to be the most relaxed, because that's when most everybody else is very tense. And so the opposite of that relaxation would be the overreaching. And most of the panic reactions in that are from folks who are overreaching in one direction and then start tumbling, and then fear takes over. So that ends up adding gasoline to that fire. So that's when you got to be very calm and anticipate those kinds of things and practice that enough that when it happens you can just breathe and feel the flow and trade your plan.
So seeing it hit Z3, that extraordinary
Yeah,
move,
yeah,
seeing it consolidating, trying to decide where to go from here,
yeah,
being in it,
yeah.
um, getting back to a calm presence when you feel the overreach adrenaline.
Mhm.
Um, Anything else that comes to
Yeah,
mind
I'm
in
thinking
that?
of the phenomenon of the eye of the storm. In
Okay.
hurricanes and tornadoes, that little moment right in the middle where everything is just absolutely terrifyingly quiet. And you can see everything around you is swirling, and there's nothing because you're right in the middle of that, and it's carrying all the sound away from you. That's the time to be most on your guard and most relaxed and to be able to look in every direction because everything is coming to that and it's coming from all directions. So the incredible energy that you find at the eyes of the storm is a really good metaphor for being inside the compound critical state as a start point for the next move. And you better respect the energy of that storm to do what it wants to do and feel which way it wants to go so that you can go with the eye of the storm, but not be hit by the storm. You know, the danger would be coming out of the eye of the storm and into the winds, slinging you around until the energy of the storm naturally dissipates, and then you find out where you are. Well, if you didn't have a directional bias and you were just committed to staying in that float like a little floating soap bubble in the middle of all this tension and turmoil, then you'd be doing it right. Is really just being a tumbleweed, being a leaf in the wind. And trees get uprooted, buildings get knocked down, but the leaf is still a leaf. It's still just kind of floating and it is able to be flexible and fluid and follow the wind. So there's an image in there that's pretty helpful to be the blade of grass, to be the wind, to be the leaf in the wind is a good model for that.
Okay. So if we shift and take a look at perfectionism as a
Yeah, the opposite
as a
end of that, the other end of that tunnel. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So that's
What
another thing you bring into that. Only this is like a an overcommitment to my intention and my rationality and every little thing that I've ever thought of, thinking that if I just add more detail to the plan and account for every possible outcome and nuance, then surely I will always know exactly what to do and I can just do it. I don't even have to worry about execution because my plan accounts for everything. And so going too far in that direction, being imbalanced in that direction, leads to either never trading because I'm still trying to perfect the plan, and then it's a moot point because the opportunity's already gone, um, or it is being so committed to the details of the plan and what I was expecting that, well, who are you going to believe, me or your lying eyes? I'm trading my plan instead of the price. In the army, we would call that fighting your plan instead of fighting the enemy. You make a plan so that you're ready for the enemy, but you're out there to fight the enemy and not to say, well, I know the enemy's here, but my plan says I need to go that way. Well, okay, you're fighting your plan now. And that's sort of a commitment to it's almost like a sunk cost fallacy where I've invested so much of my identity and my time and my capital and sense of being correct and wanting to be skillful, wanting things to go my way, the way I envisioned it, that the perfectionism can either be don't accept good enough, over plan on this thing at the expense of maybe planning some other things to just a good enough level, and then carrying that into execution um, is not being able to respond to a market that has a mind of its own. No matter how good, big, and perfect your plan is, the market's larger and can change faster and will do what it wants to do. And, you know, a plan that doesn't account for that cannot be perfect in that sense. You've not remembered that there's some irreducible chaos in that thing. So yeah, so overreaction is, I mean, the over perfectionism is that commitment to at every moment of uncertainty or questioning, say, well, let me just work on improving the plan, not even getting to the prep and the execution of the assignment. Let me just work on the front end of that to try to define all of the possible states of nature and itemize the choices. Let me take 10 minutes to describe what could happen in 1 second. Well, you're always on the wrong end of that because it takes you longer to plan it than it takes for it to happen. And even if you could get your plan perfect, can you read and execute that plan as fast as the market is moving? The market's going to move at a certain speed. Does your plan, even though it's perfect, can you actually read the signs, consult the plan, determine the action, go back and implement the action fast enough to stay connected to a market that doesn't have to do that? It just has to move. So you could have studied that bull that you're trying to ride perfectly, but he's moving faster than you can think your way through the plan and find the piece that is perfect. So there's a response time or a cycle time of um, trigger, assess, select, respond. The triggers are happening faster than your overall processing time. We've talked about that in other, the OODA loop, Boyd's OODA loop: observe, orient, decide, and act. Um, it's uh, the perfect is the enemy of the good in that situation. So that's kind of what it feels like, is that, you know, if you haven't traded for a while, or if you're going through a rough patch, there can be a tendency to try to make your plan more perfect in the sense of detail. Normally, the thought process of perfect is that I need more and more details. Whereas the perfect plan, if there was such a thing, might be less and more principle oriented. And a perfect plan is one that is not overly detailed, which is kind of the great unwinding, being able to be flexible and feel your way through it. That might be a perfect plan. But normally when I'm thinking of perfectionism, it's sort of that conceptual theoretical commitment to overly detailed and comprehensive completeness at the expense of flexibility and humility. That's the way I want to say that. There's a there's
I'm,
an experience problem in there too. As you get more competent with your own stuff, you can start talking yourself into saying, "Well, it must be you and your skill. Look how you're understanding the market and controlling it." Nope, you went too far.
yeah, yeah. So in judo, what would that be like to be trying to be perfect
Yeah,
rather than good enough?
it might be looking at, maybe it's how to apply an arm bar. That's one of the
Mhm.
techniques. It's a great technique. It wins a lot of fights, but it's not the only thing. And if I am maybe overtraining that one element, then I'm missing hand fighting and closing the distance and uh,
Mm.
footwork and um, lowering my center of gravity and hoisting him onto my so I'm neglecting the other typical elements of every throw in order to just concentrate on just hand position. And I've gone beyond the region of fit. I've gone beyond the point of diminishing returns in pursuit of, perfecting the arm bar instead of being well rounded for whatever the market wants to do. Like if the market detects you're an expert on arm bars, it'll never give you the arm. It'll do something else, that it is ready for that you're not. So that's kind of like you want a balanced ruptor so that no matter what is happening, you have a trained automatic response for it that happens without thinking, without selecting. It's sort of overtraining the fundamental positions and chain grappling, we would call that.
So the sense I'm getting from this is it's overthinking
Yeah, it's in the head,
instead of feeling what's working
right?
and where's
Yeah,
it going now and
yeah.
what's the appropriate response now,
It wants explanations and a reason for everything that's correct.
and a desire to be right.
Well, yeah, it's like, I mean, there are times, and if there weren't times when I was right, then it wouldn't be so attractive. But there have been times when, for whatever reason, my thinking, envisioning, and planning in my head ended up being what happened. And that's how they get you. Just now you think it happened once. You got to realize, well, that was just the alignment between the market condition and what I was ready for. And so it happened naturally. And you could talk yourself into saying, well, I planned it, therefore it would happen. No, it didn't have to happen that way. It went that way it didn't even notice you. It's like when you see when you're talking with young kids and say, I worry about what my friends and peers are saying about me. I said, dude, they're not even thinking about you at all. So it's all inside your head anyways. So that's kind of where it's definitely a move away from that centered power in the solar plexus and has moved all the way to the head. And now I'm thinking about the market in my head as opposed to trading the market that I'm in. I'm inside the market when I'm trading well. The market is inside my head when I'm thinking about it from a sense of perfection. So I got to get it out of my head, let the market be as big as it is, and let me just be a small piece of it. That again, that leaf in the wind. I can't predict where it's going to go, but it's always going to be a leaf and it will follow the energy.
So
Yeah.
what do you notice in your solar plexus or elsewhere when you're in the perfectionist mode?
Very relaxed, easy breathing, flexible hips. Um, um, I can turn and look. I can look in either direction without stress. My head is free and easy. I'll, a looseness and a relaxation in all my limbs. Just natural extensions of that almost rubbery feeling, that flowing motion is what that's like.
So a good antidote when you feel the perfectionism
Yeah.
is to come back into your body and to do that.
Yeah, is a quick
It-
kata, some quick flows,
yeah,
maybe a medicine ball or some hand grippers.
yeah, because
Uh,
the market's going to do this
yeah,
and
I
then go.
especially like for me actually those little rubber circular hand grippers is a way to really
Mhm.
concentrate on my hands as the connection point to the market. So it's out of my head through my solar plexus and out through my arms into my hands where I'm going to get my grip. So I
Yeah,
find when I do that, it takes my awareness back through my center and then out to the arms, which are going to grip, and then the grip connects my arms to the center, of where all the real power is. So I find that hand awareness uh, gets me out of my head. It gives a focus for the, I can breathe through my center out to my hands. And that's sort of almost the directed energy visualization allows me to think about how I engage the trade and how to fight for grips and make that connection to the trade. That's like the moment of entering is being able to get it just so, and then lock in, and then instantly relax. That's one of the other things is once you get that grip, you learn how to feel the energy of what you've grabbed so that you're not trying to stranglehold with your hands, but you're holding it with just enough strength to maintain the grip and not wear out your hands because if you grip too hard, your hands get tired and then you can't, it's like your hands become feet and you can't really do anything. So it's learn how to grab and then just enough to light grip on the reins almost like that. But
And so
it
that,
definitely is, it's an extension. The hands are connected by the arms to the torso and the solar plexus and not to the head. I
mhm.
guess that would be the key visualization for me there.
So almost holding the RL10.
Yeah, yeah. That's like the leash, and that price is running amok up in there, and there's a feel to how that RL10 price moves. It's very smooth. There's gyrations back and forth up at the end, but it quickly devolves into almost a coiled spring. It's like a metal cable under tension that has very clear gripping points and a tactile feel to it. You can feel the vibrations of price in it and where it's been, but it has a much more orderly flow to it. Yeah,
So having that calm presence with all that energy
yeah,
of the RL10 and all the price moves in and around it.
yeah. The dynamic energy of the price gets communicated quickly back through the RL10 into your hands as you're riding it, and then you can see with your eyes the path that the RL10 took as a way to start calibrating the dimensions of the move that it's making. How is it moving? Well, the path of the RL10 quickly shows you that. You're not distracted by divergences in price, which is just dust and noise. The the RL10 is the true price, and and the closer you get to the price, you can feel how that thing is dynamic and changing, and that's where you want your hands on it, giving it just enough room to let it be what it's going to be, maybe 5 bars. So I'm trying to look from where it is and how it's twitching, where could it be in the next 5 bars plus or minus a normal move to start dimensioning that, you know?
and and be able to have that look around the eye of
Yeah,
the hurricane to
yeah,
say, okay, so now where is my 75%?
yeah. We're getting here's close to the wall. If that's what it was and it started to pull away, I can now quickly say, okay, rule of four. Here's the top level, the bottom level, half and half. There's my keep 75 rule. Now I know how much room I have to let the bull run without trying to control it too much, but not let it dissipate and go all the way back and give everything back. So it sort of keeps it under loosely contained. Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts now after this exploration about both the overreaching and the perfectionism and this riding the bull, feeling the
Well, a
RL10?
couple a couple really good imageries that I like the sound of the story or the icon or the image, the leaf in the wind, the the living cable of the RL10, um, the eye of the storm. There's some powerful images that I'm going to sketch up and turn into flashcards and reflect on them because there were some key integrations and cleaning in the same way that kind of like the words of a story can be like the fat tails in a candle. The RL10 quickly sort of brings it back to a key themes and messages, slope and direction, and that's the thing to study. I got um, there's some imagery I gotta draw on this. The importance of breathing, the feeling of the hands, the surrendering to the moment, the listening specifically to the two voices of volume, the current traders, then the external crowd that wants to get in and, you know, change all the change the nature of the trade, being able to listen for both of those things in critical states, and why you got to be so calm and quiet that the noisier the market, the calmer you need to be in order to have an edge, to be the leaf in the wind. So yeah, that's where those are some key thoughts on it, and just how
Good
long
place.
how long the perfectionism and overreaching are, but really connected by that long tunnel, and each one is in an extreme, and somewhere in the middle of that is a that central nexus in the solar plexus. Hey, that's nice. Central nexus of the solar plexus as sort of the grand central station, you know, where all the things go to balance out. A lot of activity in there, but you got to be sort of the yard master in there to keep all the trains on their tracks and knowing where they are and monitoring the other imbalances as well, because it's not just these two. So trying
Mhm.
to track all of those things and knowing where all the trains are, the maitre d, the chief of staff, the master scheduler, the timing chain. Well, I think we'll end up seeing some of those in future excursions. So yeah, there's
Just
some.
just a good place to pause
Yeah,
for
I
now.
yeah, I think so. That was I feel like the this is one of those where the storm carried me a certain way, and I've been
Yeah.
able to kind of stay in the eye of the storm, and it deposited me in this new place. And what I got to do now is sort of sketch it out and reflect and uh,
And
figure
maybe
out how
we
to add
start
it to
with
my
that
practice.
next
Yeah,
time is what
yeah, yeah,
what the sketch and reflections are.
yeah. I think so. I think so. That's sort of the documentary in phases, a quick review of where or how we got here,
Yeah.
and the next one. So I'll do the same thing maybe our next time. You surprise me with two of them, and that way it's always kind of fresh and authentic. As we recall from the true
Oh,
storytelling that you can see in the background, like,
yeah.
fortuitously, and that the true stories come up and tell themselves if you are quiet enough to let them out and then trust where they want to go. So in that sense, surrendering to true stories is like surrendering to price and letting the intention come out in the way it wants to be told. Um, that little picture on the bottom is sort of the four hearts of true storytelling, kind of floating on the surface. But if you look underneath the water, they're connected at deep roots, which is wants to express itself through the flowering hearts there. So yeah, that's there's something symmetrical about surrendering to your true stories and being able to surrender to the price and the market direction. It's my opinion that practicing true storytelling is good practice for good trading because each one requires some due diligence and professional standards, but trust in yourself, trust in your story, trust in your plan, and then being able to roll where the energy wants to take you and trusting in that. So that might be a good place to start next time. You want to try to shoot for
Thank
next
you.
Tuesday, same kind of same time-ish,
Yes.
if that works for you.
Yes, that
Yeah.
does.
Okay. Let's do that then. And with your permission, I'll get this posted. I think this would be a good this one I think is a good intro to what we're doing and has some I think some practical value, I would think, for others. we'll give that a shot.
Wonderful. Thank
All
you,
right, brother.
Ken.
Alrighty, I'm going to go ahead and close up shop here, and if you want to hang on for half a second, we'll get